What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you solo today to break down the 10 things that actually matter from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. I'm back from Mexico. I got a wicked sunburn to boot, and I come back to like minus 35 temperatures in Canada. That's just the way she goes. But today, I figured I'd break down the Senior Bowl because all week while I was on vacation, I saw people talking about, the Senior Bowl actually matter? Does it not matter? What matters from the Senior Bowl? So I'm going to break down the things that you should actually take away as real dynasty, tidbits from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. So if you guys enjoy, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're new around here, check out the Patreon for more dynasty content. A ton of dynasty decision submissions coming this week, and we're going to be doing a bunch of those videos. So if you want to skip the line, Patreon is how you do so. You'll also get access to Rankings Manifesto 2.0, which has our 2023 prospect rankings in there, databases with all these stats and all the stuff that I'm going to use to evaluate these players. And then, of course, prospect player cards coming this week. I finished a couple while I was in Mexico, so I'll be posting those. But without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so fundamentally speaking, the simplest way I can say this is there's only really three things that I care about when it comes to the Reese's Senior Bowl, because there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of, practice clips that you're going to see on Twitter, but the things that actually matter, in my opinion, and all 10 takeaways are going to be based around these three things, are height, weight, and draft capital, right? That's really all I care about, because some people shrug off the Senior Bowl as it doesn't matter, and I do think it matters to some extent, because NFL teams actually care about the Senior Bowl. Whether it's right or not, they do care, and it affects draft capital. It affects the hit rates of these Senior Bowl players, because if we expect a guy to go on day 3, he has a great Senior Bowl practice, and suddenly he's an end of the first round pick, that matters for rookie drafts. So the NFL believes in the Senior Bowl. They draft players that they've worked with. They draft players that they've seen in person, that they've seen compete among, the best seniors in the country. And it's a serious input for us spreadsheet virgins, because we care about draft capital. So here are the biggest 10 takeaways from Senior Bowl week. And number 1 and 2 are both centered around one player. Tyjae Spears, running back from Tulane, has been probably the biggest winner of the Senior Bowl across the board from a fantasy perspective. The first win came in his weigh-ins. Like I said, all these takeaways are going to be based around probably size and draft capital related things. Tyjae Spears came in 5'11", 195 is what he was listed at on the Tulane website, with what I had him, down for in my draft class database. And that's a size profile that virtually limits him to scat back status, right? That's like Nyheim Hines size. That's, the type of size profile we're talking about is a guy that's only going to work in on third downs, maybe be mixed in here and there. But he weighed in at 5'9.5", 204 at the Senior Bowl, a BMI from 27.2, which was what he was listed at, to 29.7. And the reason this is relevant, and keep this in mind for the rest of the video, there's only been 2 running backs, James White and Danny Woodhead, to finish as PPR RB1 since 2014 with a sub 28 BMI. So again, BMI is more so a thing that I use to disqualify running backs rather than something that I, check off as something that, it's a great trait for somebody to have. No, just don't be too small, basically, at the running back position. And Tyjae Spears now has the size that says he's not too small. Takeaway number 2 is also Spears related, like I said, because he has been tearing it up in practice. He's been tearing it up. NFL teams are noticing this. And again, it's not necessarily that he's doing well that I care. The reason that I care is because, Abram Smith and Jalen Tolbert and Velus Jones, all these guys did well at the Senior Bowl last year. But there was also guys like Christian Watson and Dameon Pierce, and some of these other dudes, Greg Dulcich and stuff, who became relevant for fantasy. And the biggest takeaway for Tyjae Spears is that this will affect his draft capital. Now he boasts ideal size, at least for the type of role that he's going to have in the NFL. NFL teams have seen him on the field competing with some of his peers, and he showed them that he's simply just better than most of the guys there. And that could lead to Spears being drafted now in round 2, round 3 of the NFL draft, when typically we probably would have seen him go on day 3 of the NFL draft, and he would have been, a 4th round dart throw for you to take in rookie drafts. Now he might actually be locked into a late 2nd, early 3rd round rookie pick, or potentially even better if he gets like top 64 draft capital or something like that. So big time winner from the Senior Bowl. Let's get into the next guy who's also a running back, and a lot of these takeaways are running back related. Takeaway number 3 is that Roschon Johnson from Texas clears most of your favorite running back prospects in the eyes of the NFL. But Texas running back Roschon Johnson did not get the type of productivity that he should have gotten in college, and a good reason for that, because he was sitting behind the best running back in the country, Bijan Robinson, and now he's out of the shadows of Bijan Robinson. He's working on his own throughout this draft process. And people are realizing, as I did as a Texas fan watching this dude, that he can play. He's a good player. And he's 6 foot, 225 pounds, a big running back. He can show that he works on all three downs. He's a good pass protector. He's a good receiver. The other notable thing about Roschon Johnson is that the buzz surrounding Twitter is that he's going to be a day 2 pick. And that's very, very important, because we're hearing that buzz about a guy like Roschon Johnson. We're not hearing that buzz about guys like Sean Tucker and guys like Zach Evans and guys like Tank Bigsby, who have been on the Dynasty radar for a couple of years now as it relates to this class. As much as we love those guys, when we're hearing day 2 buzz about certain prospects and not about other prospects, we got to keep that in mind, to think that, as much as we like these Sean Tuckers and Zach Evans and Tank Bigsby's, who have been these Debbie darlings for a number of years, Roschon Johnson and Tyjae Spears are the guys that are getting, round 2, round 3 type of buzz. And that could really shake up rookie drafts with the way that we view them. And those early second round picks where you're like, oh, I'm just going to load up on those type of picks, the late first, early second round area, because I can get Sean Tucker there. I can get Zach Evans there. I can get Tank Bigsby there. And if those guys are 4th, 5th, 6th round NFL draft picks, those guys suddenly lose a ton of value. And we have Roschon Johnson and Tyjae Spears and some of these other dudes getting elevated as a result. So maybe that changes with the combine. Maybe that's just because these seniors are the focus of the NFL draft world right now. And once we get to the combine, we'll hear more buzz about Zach Evans, more buzz about Sean Tucker, more buzz about Tank Bigsby and some of these other guys. That's also possible as well. But for the time being, definitely stock down on those, dynasty darlings, and stock up on some of these other guys that the NFL teams seem to be more high on than the dynasty community. So going to rattle off a couple size-related takeaways here that were notable. One of my favorite sleeper running back prospects in this class is Eric Gray from Oklahoma. He clears some thresholds here for me. Like I said, I use these mostly as a disqualifier. 5'9.5", 210 pounds. He was listed 5'10", 210 on the Sooners website. He comes in a little bit shorter, so BMI is slightly better. He clears a 30 BMI as well, so definitely very solid for Eric Gray of Oklahoma. Also, apparently, he showed out as a receiver and in space, which is what he did at Oklahoma. And Gray is somebody that I kind of caught attention of, because when I was creating my running back database, he kind of showed out on every metric, right? Like I'd look at elusiveness, he was near the top of the class. Contact balance, near the top of the class. Receiving skill set, near the top of the class. Pass protection, near the top of the class. Home run ability, near the top of the class. And the guys that did that for me last year, that became on my radar as a result, were Dameon Pierce and Tyler Algier, who obviously are probably 2 of the top 5 dynasty value running backs from the 2022 class, but they were not consensus, top 5 running backs going into the class. They were more so your sleeper variety, and they got in good situations where they could command volume. And I think Eric Gray, if he goes, in the 3rd, 4th round of the NFL draft, just like those guys did, then we could be talking about a guy that emerges as like a 3rd round rookie pick that I will be drafting everywhere, because he performed so well on a numbers basis. So number 5 takeaway here is Rashee Rice, who was probably the consensus top receiver coming into Senior Bowl week. He comes in at 6 foot and not 6'3". So he was listed at 6'3", about 203 pounds, according to the SMU website. He comes in 6'0 and a half, give or take, and 200 pounds. So not great size, for a wide receiver of his skill set. He's more of like your, go up and get it type of receiver from what I've seen from his film. And I understand that most people have been unimpressed with him at the Senior Bowl as well. So considering he was coming into the Senior Bowl, the best wide receiver there, he had some, round 1 NFL draft buzz from some of the mock drafts that I've seen. This probably vaults him down to day 2, but he's still a decent wide receiver prospect nonetheless. Number 6, we have Chase Brown, who is one of the nation's leading rushers this past year, and he's a known Canadian as well. So I love, talking about my Canadian lads. He's been relatively underwhelming in practice, but he did, truck stick some guy at the goal line. He fumbled a couple times, which is definitely, understandable or whatever in these environments. According to most of the articles I've seen, they're not overly impressed with Chase Brown, but the thing that I have seen that I'm very impressed with Chase Brown is what he actually weighed in at. The size is the important thing for me, because he was listed at 5'11", 205 pounds on the Illinois website, which is not ideal size. We're talking like 27 BMI again, but he comes in here 5'9.5", 215, a BMI of over 31, which is basically an elite number. Curious to see if he stays this exact size heading into the combine, because he may have bulked up, maybe because teams had that concern about him. But if he slims down, to 208, 210 or something at the combine to run a faster 40 time, that would make a ton of sense as well. But him being 5'9.5" and not 5'11" is very, very important for the size profile that he kind of boasts. And Chase Brown's a guy that I think will, continue to, be a guy that people are interested in the late 2nd, early 3rd round of rookie draft. So definitely good knowing that he cleared the size threshold that I had, kind of concerns for him about. So Takeaway number 7, we have the running back position again. Kenny McIntosh from Georgia. He comes in with better size than listed as well. He was listed at 6'1", 210 pounds on the Georgia website. Comes in a lot shorter than that, 5'11.7", so just under 6 feet, to clear a 28.9 BMI. Again, he's supposedly having a solid week, showcasing his ability as a receiver. If he was 6'1", 210, that's like kind of a wonky size profile for a receiving back. It's kind of like what we saw to Rachaad White last year, which is a little weird for that type of skill set. So knowing that he's a little bit more prototypical, 5'11", 210 pounds, with a great receiving skill set is definitely something that's encouraging. He got hurt earlier in the week, but it sounds like he's just fine. Cramping or something like that was the actual cause of the injury. So Kenny McIntosh, another guy that I think will be the buzz of, the late second, early third round of rookie drafts type of area. And then the final few takeaways are just kind of generalizations about the class in general. Number 8 is the tight end class is better than expected. And part of the reason is because of Oregon State tight end Luke Musgrave, who's reported to be about 4'4", 4'5" speed at 6'5.5", 255 pounds. So we're talking about a legitimate potential freak athlete that's in Mobile right now. Remember, athleticism is predictive at tight end. So a lot of the times we shrug off athleticism for the wide receiver position, sometimes to a certain degree for the running back position as well. The running back or the tight end position is very, very predictive for the tight ends to be athletic, because if the more athletic they are, the more efficient they're going to be on their targets. Typically, tight ends are not guys that are going to command 140 targets a year in the NFL unless your name's Travis Kelce or something. So a guy that I've seen mocked in the first round of NFL drafts to like the Cincinnati Bengals or something like that, Luke Musgrave is a guy that's definitely going to be on the rise. Of course, we know Michael Mayer is a great prospect. We've seen Dalton Kincaid mocked in the first round as well. So this tight end class seems to actually have some solid pieces in it. And Luke Musgrave, even though he wasn't very productive in college, was the 18th highest graded tight end according to PFF. So a name to keep an eye on in the third, fourth round of your rookie drafts. Number 9 takeaway is that this wide receiver class is starting to look as shallow as a kiddie pool. Now, outside of the top 3 guys, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Quentin Johnston, there's some other guys that we like: Josh Downs, Zay Flowers, Kayshon Boutte. I don't think there's a wide receiver, though, outside of the 6 names that I just mentioned, that you absolutely need to spend a top 2 round rookie pick on. And there's some guys at the Senior Bowl, like I said, Rashee Rice, Iowa State's Xavier Hutchinson, who's interesting from a numbers standpoint because he was one of the highest graded PFF receivers this year. And some guys like Michael Wilson from Stanford who have been showing out. Tank Dell from Houston has been showing out. But for the most part, we're talking about mostly dart throws outside of like 6 names at the wide receiver position. So not a very good year to need wide receivers for your fantasy team. I would suggest if you have like early second round, mid second round picks, go out and trade them for like Elijah Moore's and Rashad Bateman's, because they'd pretty much be like wide receiver 4 in this class right now, knowing even what we know about them now in the NFL. So not a great wide receiver class overall, especially at the Senior Bowl. And another position that's not very deep is quarterback, because outside of the top 4 guys, and I mean, even the top 4 guys have some warts to them as well. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis. Those are the top consensus guys that are being consistently mocked inside the first round. There's really nobody else. Like, I mean, BYU's Jaron Hall is like 25 years old. People seem to like him, but he's not been good at the Senior Bowl. Stetson Bennett, again, like 25 years old, didn't even attend the Senior Bowl, got like a drunken disorderly during Senior Bowl week because he wasn't there. Hendon Hooker, again, 25 years old, tore his ACL in November, had a great season this year for Tennessee, but is recovering from a major injury, and he's an older prospect, so not a great situation. The only guy that's really been showing out is Fresno State's Jake Haener. I don't exactly know how to pronounce his name, but he's been the best guy there, supposedly. Probably worth like a day 3 dart throw for the NFL, but overall, not a ton of interesting quarterbacks. Maybe Hendon Hooker if he can recover, but nobody really interests me in this class outside of Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson. I don't even think you have to spend a top 4 round draft pick on any quarterback in this class outside of maybe Hendon Hooker, outside of those top 4 guys. So that is basically the biggest takeaways, everything that matters from the Senior Bowl. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like down below. I tried to make this one as quick as I possibly could because the Senior Bowl, like I said, it's not the most relevant off-season calendar type of move. Of course, the Combine will be way, way more important than your Senior Bowl, but definitely some things came out of this, some draft capital related things, some size related things. So definitely we want to recap this for you Dynasty diehards out there that were following the Senior Bowl. So hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.
Why you need the money?